The Santa Maria Museum of Flight celebrates the history of aviation on the Central Coast, with 2 hangars and an outdoor area featuring aircraft displays, memorabilia, models, and photos that cover everything from the Wright brothers' historic flight to World War II fighter pilots to present-day technology.
Okay, my name is Jerry Seamus. I'm a lifelong resident of the Santa Maria Valley, born and raised here. Well, I was volunteering down at the City Museum at that time, and I had volunteered at Santa Maria High School in the auto shop in an after-school program. And I got tired of that and moved out of that, and that kind of brought me in here, so I finally folded and said, okay, I'll come. Because I had a guy down at the History Museum, and then this pilot, I'm a member of the Elks, so they were double teaming me. One would hit me at the museum, one would hit me at the Elks on meeting night, so I said, okay, fine, I'll go out there. So little by little, I just folded into this place. So I started out when I was just on call, and then I started when I'm regular on Saturdays now and Fridays, and have a background with Hancock, as my grandfather and father both worked for him. He was a true Renaissance man in his time. You know, he was licensed sea captain of any size of ship, a licensed aviator, a licensed railroad engineer. That's what brought him to Santa Maria, was a railroad. He was on the founding board of the Auto Club. He's one of the first presidents of what we call AAA. He drove the second automobile in the LA city limits and played the concert cello with the LA Symphony. So he's quite the Renaissance man. The actual museum was established in 1984. That's before my time in the museum. It was down in the main terminal, and then there's a tin building out back, a hangar over here is where they came. And then this building didn't come about until about 1991. This was a movie prop. Okay. It was filmed on the other side of the airfield, moved over here. And it was a good news, bad news. The Disney Corporation gave us the building for $1, but we had to move it. So a lot of volunteer effort. It was Catherine and Dick Hume, who were the originators, I believe, of the museum. They were instrumental in getting a lot of volunteer help to get this done. So you had to pour the slab, move the building, bring it up to code. There was a lot of effort went into this. This was a movie prop. It wasn't meant to last this long. So this came about in 91, but the museum itself from 84 and spread down here. Well, Dick and Catherine Hume, who were, I understand, I did not know them personally, knew of them, were very instrumental in starting the museum. And it was because of them. They were pilots. And I know he had a biplane that used to be in this building. And like I say, they're gone now, but they were quite instrumental in getting it going. They thought we needed a museum here because of our history. You know, World War II history and the Hancock history and all that. And they were able to piece it together. And it's grown quite a bit since their passing. So a lot of the pieces we have in here, like I say, are a lot of pieces donated. Some are on loan. I really don't know what we own, what we don't own, but it's fun stuff. Well, we've got two airfields. One 5 miles as a crow flies across town, which is now a 2-year college, Hancock College. That was a primary training facility, and that is behind me in this diorama. This field was advanced training from 1941 to about 1945, out here at this place. This was farmland that was taken by the Army and turned into an advanced training base. Well, they built all over California. They were looking for good properties to build an airport, and this was ideal in this valley, you know, with it flat and open to the ocean and all that. And they came in and grabbed this land, was nothing but farm and grazing land, and turned it into an airport. Had it not been for the Army, we wouldn't have an airport here today. No, that was across town. The diorama behind me is Hancock College of Aeronautics, which is now a 2-year college across town. Okay. They closed that in the late 50s because of the building of the freeway. They'd been tagging trucks on the approach. So they had to close down that facility to move everything out here. So today it's a 2-year college. There's no remnants of an airfield over there. It was open in 1927 and closed down in probably 59, 60 time frame. So it was also an extension of USC. It was a College of Aeronautics and extension of USC, of which properties Hancock had owned. So I think for tax reasons, it was an extension of USC.
Oh, okay.
But during the war, 1938, they came to Hancock and asked him to turn it over for primary training. So from 1938 to 1944, they ran about 8,000 students through there, young cadets for primary training.
Okay.
And then that was across town. Then this was not really associated with them. This was for advanced training. And eventually, or actually they wanted to build bombers, trained bombers here. That tan one behind you over there is what should have trained here. It was too heavy for the way they poured the landing strip. So they ran them out, and then they brought that P-38 in, which is behind you. And that P-38 trained here as a fighter through 1945.
Interesting.
So two separate places.
And runway?
Yes, they were longer because they were landing the bombers here and landing the fighters in here. So it had to be longer than the primary training field. 1946 is when the military has turned over surplus properties to Santa Barbara County. County says, city, you manage it. So here we are today. Santa Maria City now has this property. So this was 3,600 acres. There's about 2,400 left, but it was all just surplus properties that they had after the war effort. Right. Now we're an air attack for fire. This was lengthened over 8,000 feet to accommodate a DC-10, which they use for dropping fire retardant. And this is one of 3 in California that can handle that DC-10. There's lighter aircraft that come in. Also, they have 2 filling stations, if you will, out here for the Phos-Check, the red stuff that they drop on fires. So this is one of the air attack bases in California. It's mainly local history, but we do dabble into the war effort. In World War II, we have a lot of artifacts around here. The primary trainer behind you, and then the replica of the fighter behind you. A lot of it was from the war effort, but there's another building next door. It's a hangar just across the yard that was used prior to this being moved in here, I believe. Well, no. There's a huge, the big hangar, the big service hangar down here is an old World War II piece left over. All the other World War II buildings are gone, were destroyed. There are some tin hangars next to that big building that were moved from Hancock Field across town out here. Mr. Hancock had those moved for his purposes over here. So those are old buildings probably built in the 40s that were moved out. Other than that, it's just various ages out here.
A building?
I believe it did, because there was a lot of pieces that could be, brought to light for people. They needed another building. We could use more space now. But the building next door, we still use. I mean, that's part of our museum. We take tours through there.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of aircraft over there. We've got a couple movie props over there too, besides this one.
Started?
Well, he bought the property, I believe, in 1927 from a farmer. He wanted to build his private airport. Well, from there it went into a college. They were training cadets early before World War II. There was a flying school, and it was called Santa Maria Flying School at that time. And then, like I said, 1938, that's when the Army came to him and asked him to open it up for cadet training. And there was about 8 in California that were set aside for primary training. We're one of them. That was across town. And they flew the Stearman, as I showed you out back. And that was the vehicle of choice that the Army used for training. Yes, it was a biplane. That was the blue and yellow one I showed you out back. It was just like this one. Now, this one, he had 12 of these at one time prior to World War II. Captain Hancock owned 12 of these. Fleets, they're called. The Fleet is the name of the plane, the manufacturer, Reuben Fleet. But he had 12 aircraft over there for training purposes. And then the Army came in and gave him a more updated version of a biplane as the one I showed you out back, which was a Stearman. They were built by Boeing. Right, that's a beautiful plane that's out there.
And your
that was typical U.S. Army training. Some of them were silver. The Navy might use the silver. But typical Army back then trainers were the blue and yellow.
what you see in them.
No, they were trained to take off and land without crashing. That's their main goal, was learning to fly, learning to solo. And so they flew the biplane. The instructor sat in the front seat. The trainee sat in the back seat and flew the craft.
Okay.
And they had a one-way communication for the instructor to the pilot. It was a one-way communication, so he could yell at him, and that's it. Recently, I saw a film that was shot from a person who had graduated over there, went on to World War II, and was telling his story, and said that there was a cadet being trained, and the trainer unbuckled, stood up, turned around in the cockpit, and was yelling at him, and the kid turned the plane over and dumped him out. Well, they all wore parachutes, fortunately. And I don't know what words were said when he landed, but I don't think he flew again. There's funding, I believe, from the airport board and from the city of Santa Maria.
Okay.
So we're funded here as well as the museum downtown. And I don't know the numbers, but I couldn't quote the numbers, but we are funded. And a lot of our monies out here at this museum are by individual donations by the day. You know, people come in the door. We are a 501c3. We do not charge admission. We ask a donation. So we get a lot. We can do pretty good on a weekend out here. And we do tours. Groups will come through. I've just had one here recently. About 80 people came in one day and wrote us a handsome check for their tour. So it was a club. It was very nice. We do pretty good at that. Typically, we do third graders every year. That's a third grade function. They do historical. And the last one I did for a private school, I took them through the City Museum. They went to lunch, and we came out here, and I opened up special for them that day and did a tour here. So they're fun kids. Some will ask intelligent questions, and others are just like little wild Indians. But I love doing it. I had a request yesterday from another school here in town for a third grade class coming up next year, and I said, "Sure, bring them in." You know,
That's good.
we'll do it. But I love showing them telephones. I love showing them telephones at the other museum, and I lose them on a dial telephone, old rotary phone.
What is a dial?
That's what I grew up with, and I lose them on that every time. So, but they're fun kids.
We're done.
Yes, there was about 4 films that were shot partially here. About 1955, The Spirit of St. Louis with Jimmy Stewart, the story of Charles Lindbergh. That was pretty well filmed here in Santa Maria. About 3 or 4 scenes over at Hancock Field, and 2 scenes southwest of this airport. So they used this area for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
They had a replica of the Spirit built, and they flew it around, flew over my house every day for 2 weeks. I got a kick out of that. But after that was one called Lafayette Escadrille with Tab Hunter, and I forget who else played in it. It was kind of a B movie. And that was filmed about the Americans' involvement with the French going into World War I. That was filmed on the other side of the airport. Then the 1,000-plane raid was about some B-17s. That was partially filmed here. And then next door we have a pair of movie props from the movie The Aviator about Howard Hughes. Now that was not filmed here, but we've got the props from the movie that are on loan from the owner.
Oh, okay. Like that.
The Southern Cross was a German or Dutch-built trimotor that was in Los Angeles. It was in Hawk. And these 2 Australians wanted to be the first to fly the Pacific. It was the year after Lindbergh did the Atlantic. And Mr. Hancock took them out on his yacht to feel them out to see if they were the real deal. And he found out they were. So $16,000 later, he bailed the Southern Cross out, flew it here to Santa Maria with them, and then they took off to Oakland, outfitted it, and did the rest. The rest is history. They did their Pacific flight. They went to Hawaiian Islands, they went to Fiji, they went to Philippines.
What year was this again?
1928, the year after Lindbergh did his thing. So Sir Charles Kingsford Smith and I think 2 others made that flight. Now the plane today is in Brisbane, Australia in a museum. And they're working now for 2028 to do a 100-year anniversary of that and retrace all that. And there's a gentleman that was just here 2 weeks ago. He's been in here in downtown a couple times. He's very instrumental in the Southern Cross to the point where he owns the tail number. Because when it went to Australia, they made him take that number off. So it went defunct. Well, he was able to go to FAA, I guess, whatever it takes, and he now owns that tail number for his personal use. Yeah, it's a 4-digit number that was on the airplane. You can see it on the model over there, but he owns it now. So he was just here the other day, but he's very into the history of the Southern Cross. He can tell you a lot more than I can, but though that was, Hancock was very instrumental in that, and like I said, 16 grand, and then gave it to him. That's when he started the Santa Maria, it was called the Santa Maria School of Flying before it was called the College of Aeronautics. And he did some, like this plane behind you here, he had some of those and a handful of others. There are the pictures behind me that were over there at the training field.
Okay.
So that ran over there. That was pretty big in early 1930s is when he was doing that. And like I said, it wasn't until 1938 that the Army came in and wanted him to turn it into an Army training facility. The silver plane?
It's not a jet, it's
That's a P-38 Lightning. That's a half-scale experimental aircraft. The engine over there on the stand in front of it it would have carried 2 of those. So you can see the difference in scale. It's a huge V12 engine, one on each side.
It is in here, it's half the size of what.
That's half the size of a real one.
Okay.
There is one at the Plains of Fame in Chino, one of a handful that are still flying, that was delivered here brand new in 1944, and they've got it. And they bring it up here to the air shows. It looks brand new. 10,000 built, 28 exist, and only about 7 to 10 fly. Not very good rate of recovery on those. Oh no, they lost a lot of them here. There was one crashed right downtown Santa Maria and killed 2 people in a restaurant.
That would have been in the 30s.
1945. Yeah, after that they banned all over-town training flights. Well, we're lucky to have what we have. The Navy planes outside, they would have been scrapped a long time ago. But they're still on loan to us from the Navy. And the big one sitting out here, the F-4, was a Vietnam vintage aircraft. And one of our past docents and board members was a retired Navy captain that flew in Vietnam. When they delivered that plane, he went home and pulled out his logbook, showed him where he flew that in Mesa, Arizona on 4 training flights. So this exact plane, the one that's sitting out back, he flew in Arizona on 4 training flights, so they lettered his name on the cockpit. He, like I say, retired Navy captain, did a lot of hours in that F-4, and he actually flew this one. He's gone now. He passed away about 4 years ago. But he could tell you about every nut and bolt in that plane. Ron Johnson. Yeah, he was local. He grew up here in Santa Maria, went to the Navy, and flew, did his 20-some years. When he became captain, they stuck him in the Pentagon behind a desk, and then he retired in place and worked as a civilian. So he just stayed in the same desk and kept plugging. Then he finally fully retired and came back to Santa Maria. And he's the reason I'm here. He bugged me for 2 years to come out here and be a docent. I finally folded and said, okay. I didn't know that much about the aircraft. He says, you'll learn. And because I knew local history, that's why he brought me out here.
So planes.
Oh, yes, yes. The more I got into it, the more interested, and I really love it out here. This one of my favorite places to go. Other than that, I just hobby craft stuff at home, piddle around in the garage. But this is my big day to come out here on Saturday and sometimes on Friday. And I love to do special tours. We get traveling clubs that'll come in. I've got one coming in here soon. They're a early Ford club. And we had early a Chevy club that came in here a while back, and they're neat people. And so I open up an off day for them. If it's a Monday or a Tuesday, we're not usually open. I will open up for them and give them tours and accommodate them. And then the schools, we do a special day for the schools. And so, yeah, I'm a hot rodder too. I play around with cars myself, and I've been into that for many years, so I can kind of relate to a lot of it. And the airplane engines, I really get into those too. They're fun to look at. Several, you've got the radial is this here, and then you've got the V12 that we have over there, which was a big engine they used in that fighter aircraft. I mean, they were boat anchors by today's standards, but that's what they had. Well, we have 2 jets outside. We have 1 jet in the building next door. That's a British trainer that's over there too.
Okay.
It's a nice little jet. And then I've got a Russian trainer out back. What was that? There was a Czechoslovakian-built Russian trainer that flew in here a few years ago from Santa Rosa. Still got the fuel in it.
What is this over here?
This blue and yellow craft? Oh, the tan one. That was a B-25 Mitchell bomber that should have trained here, that was too heavy for the landing strip. And that was a famous plane that flew during World War II.
Okay.
That was built by a World War II veteran. He stick built that plane and brought it in here and gave it to us. Some of the planes overhead are retired radio-controlled flying pieces, and some are just static models. And the big white one up over your head is a replica of the Wright brothers' first glider, done for a documentary called The Winds of Kitty Hawk. That's a perpetual trophy that was named for Reuben Fleet. This photo's up there on the wall, this picture. The craft behind you is a Fleet-built biplane that was a primary trainer, the blue and yellow one here.
Okay.
And he was the one that built those. And there were several of those built for primary training before World War II. So those were planes that flew 1929, 1930 time frame was big in them. And then that was a perpetual trophy from Hancock College of Aeronautics that was named in his name. Like I said, that's typically what they flew. Prior to 1938, this is what they flew at Hancock, was these primary trainers. It's quite dated, if you will.
Talking about.
That one out there, I don't know where it originated, but it was a father-son operation. They said, he told me it took him 30 years to put everything together, and they just finished it about a year ago. And it runs. They have not flown it yet, not certified to fly, but he fires it up and brings it over here, parks it for these little exhibitions out here. That's a 1941 craft. It steals the show. It's beautiful.
Is there something here as well?
Yes, this building is open for receptions. We've had a wedding in here. Several clubs have come in for a breakfast or a luncheon or a dinner or whatever. We let the building for a price.
Okay.
Not to be advertised at this time because it changes, but we don't cater anymore. We just provide tables and chairs, and the people do the rest. They have to bring in their own catering. My favorite, believe it or not, is a movie prop next door in the other building. It's a racer, a Howard Hughes built racer from the movie The Aviator. Leonardo DiCaprio starred in that as Howard Hughes. And that is my favorite. It's just nothing but a movie prop. Never flew, never will fly, but it's fun to look at. Airfest is October, we got a poster on the door, I think 19th of October, something like that. And those are run, that Airfest is run by the Planes of Fame from Chino. This will be the third year that they have run the Airfest here. And that's why they're building up here. They're a huge 56,000 square foot building they're working on right now. They're getting ready to pour the slab. Just about everything they have flies. That's going to be a big thing. And it's kind of going to overshadow us, but we'll survive, I think.
It's open.
Okay, our typical hours, we are 11 to 3 on Friday, 10 to 4 on Saturday, and 12 to 3 on Sunday. That's typical. And we do specials. And we'll do a special opening for groups prearranged. Because typically they'll leave a decent donation. So, and that's what we work on. Like I said, we're 501c3 and we work strictly on donations. So, yeah, like I mentioned before, if it wasn't for the Army and World War II, I seriously doubt there would be an airport here today.
Yeah.
In this spot, because this was just farmland. And it was taken over by the Army, and here we are today. We've got a lot of complaints about jet noise, but in 1946, when the Army turned the properties over, they left a clause in there that it shall remain open for military and government aircraft, period. So that covers the Navy jets flying in and out of here, and it covers the fire bombers, which are governments, contractors.
Yes.
So it covers all that. And we get a lot, so we get a lot of complaints about the noise. The jets come in here, but that's part of it.